I run these webinars, and I'm going to run 3. I'm going to run this one, which is mainly about the myelinating glial cells and the cranial sea. And a lot of cranial people are coming, and people who know the anatomy, but it's open to everyone. I'll be producing it in a way that everybody can understand it and have the experiences of it. And then I will run another one on, I think it's the 29th, it's the Wednesday after Christmas. And that'll be about the production of the cranial sea, the 3 filters that produce the cranial sea. The cranial sea's kind of all the fluids inside the brain and down through the spine, and it also travels out through the nerves in myelinating, or the cranial sea capillaries, as I call them. So I'll be running a webinar on that, and then about the first Sunday of January I'll run another one, and all 3 of them will run into them. All 3 of them are free. I would like it, if you enjoy them, that you tell friends about them, especially if you're craniosacral therapists and osteopaths. I would love this information to go out in the cranial world. I was dying of Lyme's disease about 20 years ago, and holographic breathing started. That's what I'll be teaching you tonight, holographic breathing, which is a way of experiencing this whole area. And I had been a craniosacral therapist for some years before that. And as soon as I was breathing in this way, the Lyme's disease started getting better. I was suffering from Lyme's disease, but also I saw the whole anatomy of the brain, what was called the cranial fluid. I didn't see it as the cranial fluid, I just saw it as a sea through the whole brain, through the whole nervous system, and out through the nerves. And then about 10 years ago, because my experience of it was so real, I started painting pictures of that. And we'll be using those pictures tonight for me to explain the different areas. So for me, we have 2 seas in us. There is a sea of fluid between all of the cells through the whole body, called the interstitial fluid. The fluid comes out of the blood. It's got all sorts of nutriments and oxygen for all the cells through the body, and that it basically joins through the whole body. It feeds the cells give off carbon dioxide that goes back into the blood or lymph and goes back to the heart. There's a second sea within the whole cranium and the central nervous system. This is the cranial sea. This is filtered out of the blood capillaries in the brain. It's a different kind of sea. It's much more refined. It's 99% water, and it's glucose, oxygen and salt, and so it's very refined, and those 2 seas don't mix at all. It's important that they don't mix, so there's filters between them. So today we're going to be working with the cranial sea, and majorly how it flows out through the nerves and how it's protected so it stays cranial sea as it travels down through the nerves. The breathing motion of all of that fluid and of the nerves and of the whole body, and how that also connects into the torus, our torus energy field around ourselves, and also how light travels through that, and how spiritual light travels through that, how the spiritual energies rise through the body from the earth as well and connect to the higher self. So that is what we're going to be working with. I'm going to start off with I'm going to show you a picture, because I'm going to teach holographic breathing, and then we're going to have an experience of the cranial sea with that. So I want to show a couple of pictures of the cranial sea. So in the body, all the cells in the body are tightly compact, and there's not a lot of room around them for the interstitial fluid, or the fluid of the body, to move. But within the brain, the cranium, the central nervous system, there's a lot of space. So we'll just show a picture of that so you can get an idea just for this first meditation. So I'm not sure if you can see that. These are the glial cells of the brain, and they're joined by tentacles. Can you see? This is all water. The brain is an aqueous solution. It's got the consistency of soft jelly, and these astrocyte cells here, they're tentacles joined to everything around, and that's what keeps its structure. If they undid their tentacles, it would just be fluid. This is a ventricle. There's just cranial sea in that. The cranial sea in the ventricles is the same as the cranial sea through the whole central nervous system. 99% water, glucose, oxygen and salt. So I'm going to teach you holographic breathing, and then we're going to use that as a vehicle to start experiencing the cranial sea through the whole brain, through the central nervous system, and then it flowing off through the nerves, so people can start getting an experience of that. And then once we've done that, we'll have a 10-minute break, and then we'll go into much more detail. I'll show you how the myelinating glials look like and how they work, and the spirals of cranial sea within them. Okay, good. So holographic breathing. Holographic breathing just started for me. As I said, I was dying of Lyme's disease. I was one day meditating, and this kind of blinding flash of light happened, and I just started breathing in that way. And the structure of holographic breathing is that the lips are relaxed and closed. The upper surface of the tongue is on the roof of the mouth. So I'm not going into teaching it just yet, but I want everybody, and definitely the people who haven't done holographic breathing, just to have that. Have your lips closed, have the upper surface of the tongue on the roof of the mouth. And so the tip of the tongue is close to or touching the front teeth, and the upper surface of the tongue is on the roof of the mouth, and it's as much as feels comfortable. So it may be ½ an inch, maybe a whole inch of your tongue on the roof of the mouth. The whole tongue may be on the roof of the mouth, but it has to be comfortable. So just while I'm speaking and describing this, just have your tongue in that position so you become used to it, so that when we go into the meditation, you will be used to that part. So that is part of it. The lips are relaxed and closed, the tongue is relaxed and on the roof of the mouth. And what happened was there's a gentle motion of the jaw, with the lips staying closed all of the time. On the in-breath, the jaw was gently opening, and on the out-breath, the jaw was gently closing. And it's a small motion, it's a subtle motion, about ½ a finger width, 2 or 3 or 4 millimeters. And for me, as that happened, this wave-like motion with the breath spread through the whole body. Now we're going to start learning this as an exercise, but at a certain point it integrates with all the dynamics of your normal breathing, and it just feels like a memory has awoken, and all the cells, and that you know it from somewhere before. It's very similar to how we breathe in the womb, how babies breathe. So the lips are closed, relaxed, the tongue is on the roof of the mouth, and within that, on the in-breath, the jaw is relaxing open, and on the out-breath, the jaw is relaxed closed. Now, I'm just going to show it to you so you can see that it is a very subtle motion, and you can see that the lips stay closed. So I'll just close my eyes. So I'm going to just do 3 or 4 breaths so you can see it's quite a subtle thing. And when you breathe like that, very quickly, you drop into quite a deep state of meditation. It's deep relaxing and deeply meditative, and a whole inner healing system starts opening up. Now, one of the main things that happens, or one thing that sometimes happens, is that people get through. I'm teaching how to do it, and as soon as we've got the tongue and the lips right, and as soon as we start moving the jaw with the breath, people think, oh, it's impossible to move the jaw and have the lips closed. So I just want everybody to have your lips closed, not with the breath, but just opening and closing the jaw, a bit like chewing, and keeping your lips closed so you have the experience. It's totally easy to move the jaw and have your lips closed. We do this every day when we're eating. So everybody doing that. Okay, great. So you can let that go. Anybody couldn't do that? Wave your hands if you couldn't do that. Nobody couldn't do that. All right, great. The other thing is, this becomes very relaxing, deeply meditative very quickly. And if you're lying down, chances are, or a good chance, you may go to sleep. First time you're learning this, in this first meditation to learn it, it's really good to be sitting upright so you don't actually go to sleep. So you're aware of all of the instructions, because if you miss any of the instructions, then it doesn't really work. Once you've got it, once it starts, you can do it lying down, walking, however you want, but just to learn it for the first time and get it to a place where it just feels natural and easy, it's good to be doing this sitting up. Now, we're going to start in a minute. I just want to check if anybody's got a question before we start. So wave your hand if you've got a question. Let me just go to the other page. Okay, no one's got a question. All right, okay. Let me check that I have got it properly on mute so that people can't unmute themselves. Okay, that's good. So it should stay quiet. This is going to last for about 20 minutes to learn the holographic breathing, to settle into it so that it just feels totally natural and easy. and to have an experience of the cranial sea within the central nervous system and as it flows out through the nerves. All right, so making yourselves ready, closing your eyes. And for the people who already know holographic breathing, you can just do holographic breathing. All the new people, just breathing gently in your own way. And we're going to bring in some resources, sending a smile to the earth, sending some energy to the earth, and allowing the earth to say hello back, allowing yourself to receive from the earth. And notice what that feels like through your body and through your energies. And then sending a smile, sending some energy to the higher self and the beneficial energies. The beneficial energies are any channels or spiritual energies or just beneficial energies you like to work with, helpful beneficial energies. And allow the higher self and beneficial energies to say hello back. Notice what that feels like through your body and through your energies. And asking the earth, the higher self and the beneficial energies to be your guide, your healing presence, a resource. And we're going to move into learning the holographic breathing now. So having the lips relaxed and closed together, having the tongue relaxed and on the roof of the mouth, the tip of the tongue close to or touching the front teeth. Just breathing gently, becoming used to having the lips closed and the tongue on the roof of the mouth. Okay, and now just not with the breath to start off with, just start gently moving the jaw up and down, and notice you can move the jaw up and down and you can keep the tongue on the roof of the mouth. And you can keep the lips relaxed and closed. Okay, and now we're going to start aligning that as the jaw is opening, allowing the breath to come in through the nose. As the jaw is closing, allowing the breath to leave through the nose. Notice what that feels like. This is the first part. We work with the jaw first just to get that feeling. So the jaw gently opening, not a long way, 2 or 3 millimeters, and the breath comes in through the nose. The jaw gently closes, the breath comes out through the nose. Notice how it feels like a bellows. As the jaw is opening, the breath is being pulled in. As the jaw is closing, the breath is leaving. Relax the back of your neck. Relax the back of your head. Relaxing your whole body. Relaxing everything. jaw gently opens, relaxes open, the breath comes in. The jaw relaxes closed, no pressure. The breath comes out. It's like a little bellows. Relax the back of the neck. Relax the back of the head. Now we're going to change the emphasis, bringing the emphasis to the breath. As you breathe in through the nose, the jaw opens with the breath as it comes in. As you breathe out through the nose, the jaw relaxes closed. Notice how the energies completely change. It becomes much more meditative, much calmer. And the whole energy starts to move through your brain. Notice the energy starts to move through your brain, through your head, through your spine. Breathing in, the jaw relaxes open. Breathing out, the jaw relaxes closed. And it can feel so natural that you barely know that you're doing it. And you know something has changed, you know there's a whole different energy happening, but it feels as if you've always known it, as if you've known this breathing and feeling from somewhere before. Breathing in, the jaw relaxes open. Breathing out, the jaw relaxes closed. It starts just integrating into your breath. As the lungs open, as the chest opens, the jaw relaxes open. As the chest closes, the jaw relaxes closed. As the teeth are coming together, they just float together on the out-breath, and there's no pressure. They just gently touch. Or you can have it so they don't touch at all. So as you're breathing in, the jaw gently opens, the teeth separate. As you're breathing out, the jaw gently closes and the teeth just float together. There's no pressure. The chest is gently opening. The jaw gently opens with it. The chest gently closing. The jaw closes with it. The lips stay closed all of the time. The tongue stays on the roof of the mouth all of the time. Breathing in, the abdomen opens, the jaw relaxes open. Breathing out, the abdomen closes, the jaw relaxes closed. Letting the neck be relaxed, letting the energy travel through the neck, letting the energy travel through your spine, through your head. Notice as if every cell in your body starts to breathe. As you breathe in, every cell is opening. As you breathe out, every cell is closing. Notice in a very subtle way, it's as if your whole face, the whole brain and cranium, neck and throat have also started to breathe. So it's not just your body breathing anymore, your brain is breathing, your cranium is breathing, your neck and throat is breathing. It's all breathing. And it just feels totally natural, totally easy. It's not connective breath. There's a space between the breaths. It's just a normal breath. There's also a sideways motion as well as the up-down motion of the jaw as you breathe in. It's as if the jaw and face are opening out to the sides on the in-breath. Breathing out as if the face and jaw relaxing inwardly on the out-breath. It spreads through the whole cranium, so the whole skull opening out to the sides on the in-breath, closing medially on the out-breath. Let the energies travel through your neck, through your brain. Notice with the sides of your cranium as they open up to the sides, inside you can feel this layer of fluid around the brain, the start of the cranial sea. Breathing in, cranium is opening to the sides, and underneath that there's a layer of cranial sea. Breathing out, cranium is relaxing back in. It's ventilating the cranial sea. And inside the brain there's these large ventricles. You breathe in, they're opening out to the sides. They're full of cranial sea. Breathing out, and relaxing back into the middle. And you just move into the whole brain, between the cells. Everything is cranial sea, opening to the sides on the in-breath, closing on the out-breath. And as you're breathing with the holographic breathing, it's ventilating this sea, this cranial sea, full of nutriments, full of oxygen for all of the brain cells. In the whole spine, the spinal cord, the whole spine, full of cranial sea. The cranial sea is water. It's 99% water, and light shines through this water. It's like a portal to receive light and to receive spiritual energies. Water makes the perfect medium, and our brain, our spine, is full of water. Salt water, it's perfect for channeling. You can contact this with holographic breathing. You can breathe with this. And then feeling it flowing out through the nerves, from the brain stem in the brain. It flows out through all the cranial nerves, through the face, around the cranium. Also the vagus nerve traveling down through the lungs, through your digestion, carrying cranial sea with it, and out through the nerves from the spine, spreading out to every part of your body, down through your arms, around your chest, through your abdomen, through your pelvis, down through your legs. So you end up with this cranial sea. It's a bit like an upside down tree. You've got the brain at the top, and then it comes down through a stem, and then it spreads out through branches, and these branches get finer and finer till they fill the whole of your body. They touch every cell. And the cranial sea flows out through this tree, and it feeds every cell with light, every cell with nutriment, oxygen, it connects every part of the body to the third eye, to the crown chakra. Gently breathing with the holographic breathing. Notice the holographic breathing is just gently going away in the background. Allowing yourself to channel light, channel energy down through your cranial sea, out through all of your nerves, out through your whole body, healing everything. Gently breathing with the holographic breathing. Allowing that to heal everything. And also this light, as it travels through the brain, it heals the brain cells, it heals the cells in the spine, heals everything. It spreads out through this medium of salt water through the whole of you. Every cell, every organ. Notice there starts to come an impetus from your pelvis, from the sexual organs, from the pelvic floor, from the rectum, from the sacrum, and an energy starts to rise, a potency from the pelvis starts rising through the cranial sea, through the spine, through the nerves, up through the body. So you get the spirit, the higher self, the beneficial energies channeling down through the cranial sea and out through the whole body. And after a while, this ushers in the potency from the pelvis, the potency from the earth, and this starts rising in the body. It's grounded, deep earth energy, sexual energies, sexual potency starts rising through the nerves, through the spine, through this medium of salt water. Notice the holographic breathing is so natural. It's just gently working away in the background. It goes through your neck. Good to let it go through your neck. Neck and throat, very important for channeling energy. Relaxing the spine in your neck and your throat. Releases up through the brain and up into the higher self. So the energies are flowing both ways. Especially let that release between your shoulder blades. And breathing gently with the holographic breathing. Okay, so we're going to come back in about a minute, so just gently breathing with that. Letting that calm down, being aware of your sit bones, being aware of your heels, the lower back of the jaw, the lower back of your head. Breathing gently. Okay, and when you're ready, gently allowing yourselves to come back. Okay, so we're going to work with the cranial sea through the whole inside of the skull, down through the whole spine, around the spinal cord, through the spinal cord, and then how it travels out through the nerves. And I'm first going to show how it travels through the nerves. When I first started feeling this, it was so clear to me that the cranial sea started traveling through the nerves. I started looking for ways that it could travel down the nerves and stay as cranial sea. And I discovered that what is normally called the Myelin Sheath, I don't like that name, I call it the cranial sea capillaries, because sheath sounds very dry to me, so I call them the cranial sea capillaries. But the myelin sheath is made up of myelinating glial cells, and these create spirals of cranial sea within them, and where they join they have tight junctions, so only pure water can come in and out through the junctions. So they create an internal environment of cranial sea within themselves. They filter it out of everything around them. If they're in the central nervous system, they're filtering it out of cranial sea. If they're in the nervous system, they're filtering out of the interstitial fluid in the nerves. So wherever they are, they create cranial sea within themselves. And they also, in the central nervous system, they're separate. There's gaps between them, but as they travel down through the nerves, they all join together, and a sea of cranial sea, or a river of cranial sea, can flow down through them. So let's look at some pictures of that. So first of all, we have this one which you've seen showing the cranial sea. Now this is a neuron here, and this is the axon that the electrical charge is travelling through, and these are myelinating glial cells here. So that is the neuron, and other legs from neurons will come to join this, and these travel through the whole brain. And when they've got myelinating glial cells around the axon, that is the white tissue of the brain, or the white matter of the brain. And when they don't, that's the grey matter. And let's look at a picture of... Here's a group of those travelling off down through a nerve. This is the spinal cord here, and you've got the bodies of the nucleuses of the neuron, then the axons travelling off down through the nerve, and then they're myelinated. They have these myelinating glial cells around them. Now as it gets into the nerve, the different myelinating glial cells join together, so there's no space showing the axon. So I'll show some pictures of the inside. So a lot of cranial fluid in these cells. It's membrane, it's spirals of membrane, and some of it is membrane and some of it is spirals of cranial sea. So they're described, the myelin sheath described as a fatty membrane, but actually it's probably twice as much cranial sea as it is membrane. And interestingly, cranial sea is salt water, so it's actually a really good conductor because the myelin sheath is described as insulating the axon so that the electricity can't escape out of it. But there's these spirals of cranial C, and for me the electricity still can't escape, but it spirals out and then back in within the myelinating glial cells, and for me this creates light. This, as charge opens up through the myelinating glial cells, it's like a fluorescent light. It lights up that whole cell. Notice the different feel when it's just the C. Here's one that's just got the cranial C, the spirals of cranial C within it without the membrane. So it has a very different quality when you experience or view cranial C to when you experience membranes or cells. Here is a cross section of a myelinating glial cell. That's the axon in the middle, and it's spiraling in, one spiral of cranial C. This central channel in the middle is much wider. This is a big cavern of cranial C in the middle, and the last one just comes around and attaches to it, but you get this big area in the middle that is just cranial C right next to the axon. Here we have some travelling down through a nerve. Within the myelinating glial cells will be cranial C. Around the myelinating glial cells will be interstitial fluid. So you have those two different fluids within the cell, and the myelinating glial cells produce this inner environment so that every nerve fibre takes out the environment of the central nervous system down through the nerves, and every nerve fibre has totally surrounded by cranial C. It has the same environment as the brain, even though it's travelling through an environment of the interstitial fluid of the body. So those two fluids are together in that area, but they don't mix. So here we have the myelin sheath. I don't like that word, I'm not going to call it. You have the cranial C capillaries travelling down the nerve fibres within the myelinating glial cells, and where they join, there's thousands of little fibres. They're joined by thousands of little tentacles, and the cranial C can flow into these tentacles, so it's a massive surface area, so it can move from one myelinating glial cell to another. And they're really long. It's not like there's lots of connections. Each myelinating glial cell is about 100 times as long as it's wide. So if it's 1 centimetre wide, it will be 1 metre long. So there's a long passageway before it joins to another myelinating glial cell. So it's not having to go through lots of junctions. So they can make these rivers and they can flow off down through the nerves. Okay, I'm going to show you it in... I'll talk a little bit about just a short while. I'm not going to go into it in depth. I'll leave a link so people can view the new work on structured water. But they've found that if you get well, they found structured water through the whole body, and it makes an electrical charge. It has a negative electrical charge, and it creates currents and energy for us. It works off light and it produces energy. And if you get a tiny tube of something that water likes, and you put it in a body of water, it will create structured water around the inside of it. And as long as there's light there, that tube will pull water through it. So if you get a fine tube and you put it in a body of water, it will create a permanent flow of water through that tube, propelled by light and the different states of water. And that's how capillary action happens. A tree will pull water up hundreds of feet through thin tubes by capillary action, and lots of it. A fully grown oak tree will pull up something like 250 gallons of water a day from the roots right up to the top leaves, just by capillary action through these fine tubes. And the same thing is happening through the capillaries from the heart. The heart, it's impossible for the heart to pump blood through 70,000 miles of fine capillaries. It's 44,000 miles of fine capillaries and 70,000 miles of blood vessels. But the capillary action can pull it through the capillaries, the blood capillaries. So it's a bit the heart and a bit capillary action. And the same is in the myelinating glial cells, but instead of just one tube, there's hundreds. The spiral can go round over 100 times. So it's like there's 100 tubes and the membranes are very close together. So this pull of water, it's perfect for pulling water along it, and the structured water and light, and it will just propel itself along these cranial C capillaries. Okay, so I've made a little model. Hopefully it's still going to work. Let's show you the first bit. I'm going to show you how they grow and show you the spiral. So first of all, so if that's an axon, first of all, you get this cell, you get a myelinating glial cell, and it comes and sticks to the axon, and it won't be big enough to wrap its whole way round, but to start off with, but it will wrap its way round, and then it will keep growing until it laps over itself, and inside itself, as it wraps round, it will create, that's water, that's cranial C. It will create a body of cranial C between itself and the axon. And it keeps growing. It will just keep wrapping round and wrapping round. And as it wraps round, it will stretch out. And each time it grows a bit, it filters more cranial C into itself. So it gets two spirals. It gets a spiral of membranes, and it gets a spiral of cranial C, and it spreads out, not just the sides and the front, but this whole middle bit spreads out. And what you end up with, here we have a bigger version, so you only see the outside. When you look at them, you just see this, it's thinner now, the axon is much thinner. And this, you only see the membrane, but inside there's two membranes. There is the membrane, one spiral, and then the water, the cranial C, the other spiral. And I'll go to the side, and as it unravels, it gets narrower. See how it is going in towards the middle? It's getting narrower and narrower and thinner. And every time it turns, this bit here connects to the axon. So around the axon, you get this spiraling of connections into the middle. And oh, there we go. I can get it all in. So in the middle, you'll end up with this big kind of area of just water in the central kind of cavity in the middle, and then it spirals around that, and it can spiral over 100 times, and each time it keeps spreading out along the axon. So I'm going to roll that up again, and when it's all together, it seals, well, all the time it seals to itself. So there's tight connections as it's sealing it to itself. There's tight connections as it seals to the axons, and you can only get pure water with nothing else will come in through a tight junction, and then to feed itself it will pull in oxygen, glucose and salt. So it ends up with membranes and cranial sea inside, and there's this big area of water in the middle, or cranial sea, and then up to 100 spirals of cranial sea, and it's about 50-50. Right in the middle it's about 50-50. But if you come, excuse me, really turns me on, I'm even dribbling as I'm talking about it. So the middle you can have 100 spirals. When you get further here, see, this will only be 50 spirals, so there's much larger water content. And then you get to the edge and there's only 1 or 2 layers, but it's still the same thickness. So this area is nearly all cranial sea, so you end up with a reservoir of cranial sea at both ends on the outside, and then you end up with a reservoir of cranial sea right in the middle. And as you get another one growing here and connecting here, and then thousands of tentacles joining one to the other, so the cranial sea will be flowing down through the nerve, and it can filter in more water, oxygen and glucose from the environment around it, which is the interstitial fluid, but much easier to take pure water, oxygen and glucose from the myelinating glial cell before it, because it's already moved. It might want to take out a bit of carbon dioxide, but it's got this flowing down, and that way they just flow one to the other to the other. And even this is still, how wide is that? It's a couple of centimeters. So if this one was this thickness, if this glial cell was this thickness, it would be about 2 or 3 times the length. So be 2 or 3 times that length before the next one, before the next join, and then so it's a long way before it has to connect, and then this is traveling down through the nerve. So from the outside you see it as solid, and people think of it as solid, but it's actually much more water or cranial sea than it is membrane. I'm going to unravel it actually and then just show you, because we just see the membrane, but you can take the membrane out, and you can just have the layer of water. Whoops, come on, it doesn't want to separate. I made this special effect for you today, and I'm still trying to understand how to work it. Or you see, cranial practitioners, they will just tune into the cranial sea, and you can easily do that. You can just feel inside and just feel the cranial sea if you want. You don't have to feel the neurons or all the other things. You can just tune into the cranial sea. So with a myelinating glial cell, you can tune into the cranial sea within it, or you can tune into the membrane. So if you're tuning into the cranial sea, you will just get this spiral of cranial sea just moving out, and it'll have a much more delicate and channeling type effect to it. So you can just channel and feel the cranial sea, or you can feel the membrane of the myelinating glial cell, or you can feel both. This is only this is only taught by me, by the way, and this is a theory. The actual makeup of it is accurate. It is that much fluid, and it is that much membranes, and it is that many spirals. The energetics of it that I'm describing and what that fluid is inside is a theory of mine, because I could feel it. I could feel it. I could feel the cranial sea traveling off down through the nerves and staying as cranial sea. So I investigated to find a way that it can do that, and that's opening up a lot in the cranial world, where now they're saying, yeah, it flows off down through the nerves, but I haven't seen people saying how it can do that and stay as cranial sea. And this shows how it can travel down the nerves and still be cranial C. And also all of the other places that cranial C is produced in the brain, from the capillaries. It's produced by what they call not the ependymal cells. Well, in the choroid plexus, it's filtered through the ependymal cells, and it's got tight sections, so only pure water can come through those connections, and then the rest of the water comes through the cell, and the nutriments are released through the cell, and only those nutriments. And then within the endothelial cells around the capillaries, same thing, they have tight connections and they only let out pure water, then oxygen, salt and glucose is let out. These also have tight connections, and the only reason for a tight connection is that it's only going to let pure water in. So I think it's a filter, the same as those others. And this will be our next group next week, where I'll teach you how the endothelial cells work, how the ependymal cells work, how they filter and make the cranial C. And rather than calling it the blood-brain barrier, which is a terrible name, we're going to call something like, I don't know, the water head or the spring head that is creating all of this cranial C easily. And then we'll show how the filter of how it travels out through the nerves, and that the interstitial fluid from the nerves can't flow back into the central nervous system because there's this flow of cranial fluid continually flowing out through the nerves, which stops stuff flowing back in. But we'll do all of that in the next webinar. Now, I hope I haven't confused everyone. Wave your hands if you're now totally confused. Anyway, I'll put my little thing away. So we're going to do that meditation again, and now I've shown you that picture of the myelinating glial cells, so you don't have to understand it. It's not important to understand it, but it will give you kind of a picture of how this fluid can travel off down through the nerves. Excuse me, I've got a runny nose. And also, when you get in contact with this cranial C within the myelinating glial cells and the spirals of the myelinate, you'll notice that they get a really good breathing action. You can really feel there's a breath to these myelinating glial cells, and that gives a breath through all these nerve fibers. Now, I mean, you've got to look at the incredible, just phenomenal anatomy of our body. If you think about it, each one of those axons, it's one axon, it's one cell from your spinal cord. Say you're going down to your big toe, that's more than a meter. That axon will go all the way from your spine, all the way down your leg, and all the way to your big cell. One cell will travel, and all of the nerves traveling out through the spine, the whole length of the vagus nerve, you get millions of, or even more than millions of myelinating glial cells around the axon, but you get one axon traveling all of that way. And we think that the movement of the electricity through the brain is fast, but it's not. The movement of the electricity through the axons is fast, but the synapses, it's squirted. it's like a water gun. It squirts all the different stuff from one synapse to the other. The synapses are actually a little bit slow, but the axons, and that's why they just can have one axon, because if you want to be able to walk and stay upright, you've got to have an instant message. So you won't need that at all, but it just amazes me that you've got so small they can barely be seen in a huge microscope, but there's like over a meter long. So you've got all of these axons flowing out through the body, and then around each axon you've got these cranial sea rivers and capillaries that can flow down from one to the other out through the whole body. When they breathe, you can feel the breath, and you get the same breath as in cranial sacral therapy, because they're very thin, so you're getting a bit of movement, but you get a top to bottom movement. So as we open up sideways in holographic breathing and in cranial sacral therapy, there's a breath that you're opening up sideways, and at the same time as you're opening up sideways there's a shortening top to bottom. And then on the out breath there's a contracting in, but you're lengthening top to bottom. I wonder if I've got a balloon around. 1 minute. Imagine this is your abdomen. Now we experience it just doing this, breathing in, but all of the muscles to create that expansion to the sides and forwards are contracting top to bottom. So it's breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. So we don't feel the shortening that creates the expansion, or generally we don't. And through every area of the body except for the lungs, which can open in all directions, there's a shortening top to bottom from the muscles that produces the expansion. Then there's a lengthening top to bottom that causes the contraction in this way. And with these myelinating glial cells and these nerve tracts through the whole body, because they're all fluid, because they're full of cranial fluid out through the nerve, it feels a bit like a jellyfish, and you feel like this jellyfish is how jellyfishes swim. They're shortening and the hood is opening, and they're lengthening and the hood is narrowing. You can feel this kind of jellyfish water breathing motion of everything opening and everything opening and shortening, and everything lengthening and narrowing. So that's hopefully what you will feel. You may not, you may just feel a nice breath, but if you feel this shortening and expanding, lengthening and narrowing, great. And that also had every myelinating glial cell, because they've got this electricity of the structured water, they create a torus energy field, the same energy field that's around the earth and around us, where the energy comes down and loops around and you get this shape. Each myelinating glial cell has a torus, and they breathe. The torus breathes. If this is a torus top to bottom with a central column through the middle, the torus can breathe. Breathing in, the torus shortens and widens. Breathing out, the torus lengthens and narrows. So you can feel that through all of the myelinating glial cells breathing, and that opens up into this toroidal field around you. And not only that, these cells are amazing. These cells channel light. Because they're water, they channel light. And I could feel that. I developed these light machines that I do work with healing. And you can feel them. You put the light machines on you, especially on the spine, and you can feel it, that the light is traveling through the nerves, through the whole body. It's vectored through the nerves. So I'm doing too much speaking. I want to give a couple of meditations. Let me see what the time is. Maybe I'm not going to give a couple of meditations. Well, we're going to do one long meditation anyway. So I'll talk a little bit more and we'll include it. In the eyes are letting light in, and then at the back of the eyes, lined with all of these nerve endings coming into the eyes, and all of this water from the myelinating glial cells and the myelin capillaries, and that light can vector through the eyes straight to the thalamus and the third eye and through the whole brain, and that light can come in, and infrared light can come in a good couple of inches into the body and then just flow through it. And I feel it when I put these light machines on, just spreads through the whole body. The different colors, the different lights just spreads and vectors through all of these channels and rivers of cranial sea that spread through the whole body. And there's so many nerve capillaries. I mean, so many. There's 500,000 miles of kind of the axons in the brain, and myelinated axons in the brain. There's probably double that flowing out through the body. There's thousands and thousands of miles of these little tubes that can vector light through them. And if you only had the nerves and all of these nerve capillaries and nerve fibers, if they were only those, and you looked at someone, you would still see a whole body. The skin, everything would be there. The only thing, you just wouldn't have hair. There are just so many of them, and they're all full of water. They all have the cranial sea flowing out through them. So the light can vector through the whole body. It can come into the body and vector back to the brain. Spiritual energy can come into it, spread out through everything. Earth light from the earth and energies from the earth can come up and travel. Salt water is the perfect channeling medium, and we are just full of rivers and channels of that. I feel great this evening. I can feel absolutely crap, and then when I start channeling and talking, I just feel really good. All right, we're going to talk. I'll tell you what else. I mean, I had Lyme's disease, the holographic breathing started, and I started healing the Lyme's disease with this. And I was telling people, and they just didn't know what I was talking about. And 10 years later, I painted all of these pictures, and they didn't really go out. But now it's 20 years later, suddenly I've got a medium to show what I was seeing. And it's like a huge relief. I'm telling people about it. And they're listening. I tell people before, they just thought I was a nutter. All right, let's start. So we're going to do a meditation. I will also include some, because the level of the myelinating glial cell is of the higher energies, and I will be including some of the energy. We work with a whole healing system that opens in holographic breathing, and there's a deep earth energies, there's a fire energies, there's a blue energy, but we'll be including some points for the higher energies, which are the bottom part of the sacrum here, relates to the brain. High energies, the top part of the sacrum. It's also the top of the head around here and the eyes. So there are lots more points with those, but as we get into it, I will, because the myelinating glial cells relate to the brain, the higher energies and the arms and legs, I'll include some of those points that we work with in holographic breathing. All right. All right. We are going to start. So closing your eyes. And gently dropping into the holographic breathing. Notice how easily it starts. Notice how it's just like a memory that just starts on its own. Lips are relaxed and closed. The tongue is relaxed on the roof of the mouth. And as the body breathes, the jaw just gently opens. As the body breathes out, the jaw gently closes. And also feeling that a sideways motion starts happening. Feel the jaw, the sides of the face opening on the in-breath, closing on the out-breath. The sides of the cranium opening on the in-breath, closing on the out-breath. And the neck and throat opening out on the in-breath, closing on the out-breath. And the arms and the torso and the lungs opening out on the in-breath, closing on the out-breath. And the abdomen opening to the sides on the in-breath and closing medially on the out-breath. And the legs opening out sideways on the in-breath, closing medially on the out-breath. Everything breathing. And in the cranium you can feel a layer of cranial sea around the brain. And also inside the brain you can feel these large ventricles that are also just cranial sea, opening to the sides as you breathe in, closing medially as you breathe out. And you drop inside the brain. It's 90% water, and the water in it is 99% water. It's all cranial sea. The cells are like sea anemones and seaweed, connected to each other by long thin tentacles. And it's just full of cranial sea, and the cranial sea is nourishment, brings oxygen and glucose to the cells, takes away carbon dioxide, channels light, channels energies, also remembers energies as it travels through the crown chakra, through the third eye. It absorbs the qualities of these energies. These energies are logged into the memory of the cranial sea. And feel this through the whole spine. Be aware of your neck. Let your neck be relaxed, and the spine in your neck be relaxed. Feel this cranial sea right down through the spine into the sacrum, and the spinal cord in the middle also full of cranial sea. from the brain stem in the center of the brain and down as it enters into the spine. You have all of the cranial nerves. The cranial sheath flows out through the cranial capillaries, through the myelinating glial cells, which are mainly tubes of cranial sheath. And you can just tune into the cranial sheath side of that, and you just feel the rivers of cranial sheath flowing out through the cranial sheath capillaries, out through the nerves into the face, round the cranium, into the ears, into the eyes, the tongue, all the senses, smell, taste, touch, sight, hearing. So down through the vagus nerve, through all of the organs, these capillaries of cranial sheath. The myelinating glial cells make capillaries for the cranial sheath to flow, and they also filter cranial sheath into themselves, so they can exist outside of the central nervous system and keep a pristine quality of cranial sheath within each capillary. As they flow off down through the body, this water and light. Notice how light channels through the nerves, through these capillaries. They're like optic fibers, they're like fluid fibers of channeled light, liquid light. And from the spine, flowing out through the nerves, cranial sheath, down through all of the nerves. Notice you can feel it go. You can feel the water, you can feel the cranial sheath, and there's this relief as you feel it travelling out, down through the nerves. There's this relief as it carries light, but it also takes the toxins away. The toxins, the cranial lymph, leaving the brain, travels off down through the nerves. Around the chest, down the arms, around the abdomen, down through the pelvis, down through the legs. These capillaries of cranial sheath flowing out through your whole body, and they will flow, but they also flowing very slowly. There's a stillness to them. They travel out, there's a stillness, there's a flow, but there's a stillness of delicate water with light shining through them, and they travel through every part of your body, through every part of your brain, to your skin, through your bones, through your pelvis. Channels of water, glowing water, light water. To every part of your body, and they carry the memory of the higher self, the Ajna chakra, the crown chakra, the throat chakra. Water has a memory, it connects to the higher self, it connects to the intelligences beyond, far beyond anything we can imagine or know, for ourselves, and this intelligence can channel into the water and spread out through the water and inform every cell through your body. Higher intelligences, beneficial higher beings can come in as long as you want them to. It's available. If you want to open to that, you can allow new energies for the new times and the new era to come in, and that energy can travel through the cranial sea. It can inform your DNA, can realign your DNA to the new times, can heal, take away traumas. You have to relax your throat and neck to channel. You can just sit into that. Let the channels inform your body, heal every cell through your body and through your brain. Healing always comes from a higher level than we can understand it with the intellect. And you may not understand the messages or the vibrations, but somehow they're perfect for our evolution, and they log into every cell, every bit of DNA. And breathe, gently breathing with the holographic breathing. Notice there is the water channeling through, but notice there's also a breath to the myelinating glial cells, opening on the in-breath, closing on the out-breath. So all of these capillaries through the whole body, they expand on the in-breath, and they contract on the out-breath, but they're not like the lungs that can let air into themselves. There are certain volumes, so as it expands, it shortens top to bottom, every cell expanding to the side, and as it expands, it shortens. Breathing out, as it narrows, it lengthens. If you can feel this, fine. If not, fine. If you just feel the opening and closing, that's fine. If you feel the shortening and lengthening with it, that's also fine. And you can feel from the brain, through the spine, out through all of the nerves, this quality of water, and breathing in, it's opening, and all of these nerves are shortening, the brain shortening and widening, the whole body shortens and widens on the in-breath. Breathing out, all of these capillaries are lengthening and narrowing, and the whole body lengthens and narrows. It can feel like a jellyfish because of all of the water travelling through the capillaries and the nerves. Have that quality of a jellyfish. A jellyfish floating in water, it's opening and shortening. The tentacles are pulling up as it's expanding. Tentacles relaxing away as it's narrowing. You can feel your whole body shortening and widening, and the brain. You have to feel this in the brain at the same time. Brain expanding and shortening top to bottom. Brain narrowing sideways and lengthening top to bottom. You have to allow it to go through the brain. So the brain and the whole nervous system. Breathing in, it's widening and pulling up towards the brain. The brain's expanding and shortening. Breathing out, it's all narrowing and relaxing away from the brain. And there's something orgasmic or organic or cell-like to the ancient and cell-like, like an amoeba, an archetypal breath back before the mind and before time. Breathing in, it's how cells breathe, expand and shortening. Breathing out, lengthening and narrows, how cells swim through water. You can feel this through your whole nervous system and the brain. You can feel it around you in your toroidal energy field, these energies coming down through the center of your body and then out and around your body and then back in through the top of your head, your whole toroidal energy field opening and shortening with your body. Closing and lengthening with your body on the out-breath. Nice to feel that through the spine, spinal cord. Gently breathing in this organic motion of the breath. Letting that go, just being with a gentle breath. Start feeling back more the fluid, the cranial sea, flowing through the nervous system, flowing through the central nervous system, and this light, the light flowing through the sea and out through every nerve capillary. Notice as you become more into the fluid, the movement of the breath becomes less. Now these myelinating capillaries, they relate to the higher energies in the brain. And two of the points for the brain and those higher energies are the bottom half of the sacrum. You may feel that as a bright white light. And energy releasing from the lower sacrum right up through the spine and through the head, the kundalini from the lower sacrum. May also work through the rectum as well. And also the top of the sacrum as it comes over the top of the wings of the pelvis is also the higher energies. Notice you may feel a flashing in your eyes, the higher energies for the face of the eyes. Gently breathing with the holographic breathing. In cranium, it's more the top and back of the head, which releases the higher energies through you. You feel this pulse of bright white energy through the brain, through the spine, through the nerves. Through the myelinating glial cells. And myelinating glial cells have a lot to do with the connection from the brain to the higher self. You can feel the channeling from the myelinating glial cells in the brain up into the higher self. Gently breathing. Just letting that energy run. May calm down after a while. Gently breathing with the holographic breathing. Feeling the different energies through the whole body. Gently breathing. And feeling the physicalness of the whole body, the organs, the muscles, the heart, the arms and legs, the face and cranium. The kundalini from the pelvis rising through the body and through the brain. The higher energies descending. As we move out of the cranial sea and just into the whole body, the whole different feel, the different quality. Gently breathing with the holographic breathing as that quality of the cranial sea grounds into the whole body, that quality of the myelinating glial cells ground into the whole body. And you can feel how the body channels. The body connects to the subtle realms, the subtle beings, the subtle intelligences. We can be privy to these communications whenever we want. We can talk to the gods and we can let the gods talk to us. It's just a case of allowing that to happen. And they can inform us, they can inform our DNA and every part of us. And at this special time of year, in this session, that seems to be available. If you wish to have that, you can just allow that to happen. There's some kind of transmission. Just letting that come through you. And breathe. Letting that inform you on a cellular level. a new energy for a new time. A new energy for a new way of being. A new energy for a new mankind. An evolution. We are not what we think we are. We are far beyond what we can imagine ourselves to be. Allowing that communication from the subtle realms and the beyond for the next step in your evolution, your personal healing journey. Gently breathing with the holographic breathing. We're going to come back in about a minute. Sending a thank you to the earth. Sending a thank you to the higher self and the beneficial energies. And sending a thank you to yourself. Allowing the energies to go off for love and healing to the earth. For love and healing to the higher self and beneficial energies. Allowing yourself to be loved and healed. Allowing the energies to go out to all sentient beings. And you are a sentient being, allowing yourself to be loved and healed. And when you feel ready, gently allowing yourself to come back. All right. So we're going to carry on from now on the, I've forgotten the date, 29th, whatever the Wednesday after Christmas is. And we'll be working with the 3 filters of the cranial sea. And then we'll carry on from that again, I think, this Sunday, 2nd of January. If you've enjoyed this, I want something back. I don't want money. I don't want you to give anything to me. I want you to share it. If you've enjoyed this, there's going to be a video. Let people know about that video, and I'll send everybody, you'll all get a link, you'll get the recordings and a link for the next one. Share those on social media or wherever, if you wish. So that is there. We'll be doing those 3 webinars. In January, we'll be going back to working with the organs. There's free webinars. I do a free webinar every month. This is one of those. And then between that, there's a kind of a family of people. We're working with the Kundalini, different organs, the cranial sea, and kind of quite a magical healing system that opens up with holographic breathing.